Do you still think you can escape number 6?
What do you think when you hear the word dystopia? Is it a neon-lit cyberpunk skyline dotted with kanji? Big Brother? A government trying to restrain its citizens' bodily autonomy? Well, me too. But I was recently exposed to another dystopia. One that predates the end of the Vietnam War, the rise of the religious right, and the advent of the internet. This is 1967's The Prisoner. In The Prisoner, an otherwise unnamed man known as Number 6 is kidnapped and awakens in a calm and mysterious coastal village known only as The Village. The primary antagonist and Number 6's captor is Number 2, a villain whose actor switches nearly every episode in an effort to destabilize the normalcy of the show. As a result of this decision, Number 2 becomes just a number, not a person. This operates in stark contrast to the mentality of Number 6 and his now famous quote,
I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own.
Is it?
Yes, you won't hold me.
Won't we?
Most of the episodes are dedicated to Number 6 attempting to escape the island in gradually more and more outlandish and creative scenarios. And in essentially every episode, his plans are foiled, in sometimes even more creative ways than the escape method to begin with. The show ultimately culminates in one of the most polarizing endings of a show I've ever seen. I won't spoil it because I want you to watch the show, and where's the fun in spoiling the end of a nearly 60-year-old show anyway? But back to The Village. A technologically advanced autocracy with the license to hold its civilians captive, and the goal of obtaining information. Information in hopes of selling it to the highest bidder. Not only are the occupants of the village mostly docile and willing to abide by the rules under which they are oppressed, but they are often perceived to be happily doing so in exchange for the convenience and lifestyle that the village allows them. A surveillance state that relies on its convenience to bring its subjects on board regardless of the detriment it causes to one's agency. One where they know everything about you and use it to the best of their ability in exchange for power and presumably money. If this doesn't sound familiar, I'm not sure which techno-utopia you're living in, but to me it sounds like the rise of social media and the oncoming barreling train of generative AI. A civilization becoming complicit while we approach the least human outcome in the name of comfort. When this circuit learns your job, what are you going to do? Under conditions of electric circuitry, all of the fragmented job patterns tend to blend once more into involving and demanding roles or forms of work that more and more resemble teaching, learning, and human service, in the older sense of dedicated loyalty. This is a quote by Marshall McLuhan in his 1967 book, The Medium is the Massage. And for as much of a downer as the book may seem, this is a fairly optimistic view of automation compared to where we seem to be going. The machines have integrated themselves into one sector that universally seems to be humanity's claim to the throne of genetic superiority. Creativity, problem solving, and expression are being eaten away at. The ease at which we can type in a prompt and generate a fairly polished final product is startling for its implications to man. Instead of technology ushering in a world where humanity can create at its own leisure, we are giving us more time to be economically productive. And how? Even in our resting state, we serve as batteries for the profit machine of social media and advertising. We consume and are being consumed. Now, am I in any way stating that convenience is a bad thing? Well, yes. But am I going to stop using services like Grubhub and Amazon? Probably not. If I was given a home, money, and basically anything I ever needed to live a life unhampered by economic servitude, I'd probably assume the role of villager in a heartbeat. In this economy?
I was told, whether it's true or not, that at the end of Secret Agent, there was a party in London from which there were members of Parliament there, and someone made the remark to Patrick of, so what does a secret agent do when he retires? Meaning the actor. Patrick, inquiring, said, what do they do with secret agents when they retire? Meaning the real secret agents. And from what I'm told, this gentleman replied, oh, we take care of them. We give them a house, we give them a car, we give them some pocket money, and that way they won't defect. Which I kind of believe. And I think that was the embryo of The Prisoner. I think that's where it all began.
One of the defining features of The Prisoners, and more specifically The Village's aesthetic language, is the fact that it's very friendly. Something that tricks you into having a false sense of security with its colorful characters and architecture that will ultimately stop at nothing to keep you captive. Advertising and interactive technologies operate in much the same way, keeping you comfortable. Okay, so the existential threat of convenience as manipulation, the rise of AI and social media complicity. We sure are having fun, aren't we? Well, here's where we talk about lockdown and quarantine. I'm sure you knew it was coming. Whenever a villager is probed by Number 6 about how long they've been held captive, the question is either met with hostility due to the community's ethos of questions are a burden to others, answers a prison for oneself, or for the more willing villagers, the simple fact that time has been lost for them. They simply don't know. Zooming out to reality for a second, let's talk about the viewing order of the series. I know, it seems very insignificant, but hear me out. It's way more interesting than you'd think. In terms of the simple mechanics of the show, the inadvertent and seemingly arbitrary nature of the episode release order really matters. The show's main creator and star, Patrick McGoohan, is on record as stating the episodes were not broadcast in the order he preferred, and, in fact, according to him, there are only 7 episodes that really matter. I disagree, but still. The rest were made because the studio thought it would be a good idea to bulk up the series. A side effect of this decision is that the chronological ambiguity of the show has led to there being at least 7 widely accepted viewing orders for The Prisoner. In fact, I created playlists with different viewing orders if you want to try each out. For what it's worth, I like the KTEH order. So, how does the show maintain this widely disputed order and still work? Well, in my view, that mostly comes down to the title sequence and storytelling. In the title sequence, the prisoner recaps the events that led to him being captured. His resignation from the spy agency he worked for, the gassing that knocked him out, and the subsequent coming to of our protagonist on the island. Every time establishes who the main characters are, where they are, and why they are there. This sets up the prisoner with a beautifully ambiguous timeline, where those who watch can come to their own conclusions, or not have any at all. It makes me think back to quarantine and the days blurring together as some sort of amorphous haze, giving the series much more depth than it could have even had upon its release. This shared experience makes the series so much more impactful. Various studies and news outlets have spoken about the effect that lockdown and the pandemic have had on our perception of time. According to NPR, the effect that it had on our personal timeline entirely depends on your situation. For me, COVID was the great accelerant. time ceased to resemble anything I had ever seen before, and honestly, I still feel 23. I don't feel it physically, as my bones have started to creak and my left knee has started to hate me, but time both stood still and sped up. According to Ruth Ogden, a psychology professor in the UK, we're aware of time. We're aware of the fragility of time. We're aware of what happens when your time to do the things you want is taken away from you. And that's the real thing that will have changed, is how people value time. The show employs a hybrid of episodic and serial storytelling. Very few of the characters are recurring, removing the human landmarks of chronology. And also, the premise stays fairly constant, with very few major B-plots. Most of the episodes are about trying to resist Number 2's interrogations, and Number 6 trying to get out of the village. These are just a few of my takes on Patrick McGoohan's The Prisoner. I hope you enjoyed. This video has gone on a bit longer than I was anticipating, so I'll cut to the chase. You should watch The Prisoner for these and so many more reasons. It's an introspective masterpiece from a visionary. So please, if you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, all that jazz. And I hope to see you next time.